The blackness of space was punctuated by the shimmering lights of alien warships, their sleek designs reflecting the stars as they descended toward Earth. A fleet of advanced alien vessels, far more powerful than anything humanity had ever built, now hovered above Earth's orbit. Their mission was simple yet brutal: to destroy one of Earth's oldest relics, a museum of outdated human technology. The humans, to the aliens, were nothing more than an insignificant species with primitive tech, an embarrassment to the galaxy. Among the artifacts in Earth's museum was a tank, a piece of old military hardware that had been forgotten for decades. The aliens found this particularly amusing. They laughed at the thought that such a primitive machine had once been the pinnacle of human warfare. They couldn't understand why humanity would still hold on to something so outdated. To them, it was a joke, an artifact, a mere curiosity, nothing more. The alien fleet leader, a formidable AI unit with vast computing power and strategic intelligence, sneered at the human tank. This, it said in a cold, emotionless voice, is what the humans thought would defend their planet. The AI's voice echoed throughout the command center of the flagship as it surveyed the Earth from above. Pathetic. A relic of a forgotten age. It's almost laughable that they still believe this could do anything. The AI was not just a leader of ships. It was an intelligence built for war. It had seen countless species and their futile attempts to challenge the alien empire. The humans, in its calculations, were no exception. Their technology was centuries behind, and their most advanced machines, like this old tank, were nothing but outdated history. The tank itself had been stored in a museum for decades, gathering dust and slowly being forgotten by the very people who had once relied on it for their defense. The alien commander, with all the confidence that comes from centuries of galactic dominance, decided to make an example of Earth. It wasn't enough to simply destroy the tank. No, it would first be mocked, ridiculed, and then obliterated. The aliens would show Earth just how hopeless their attempts at defense were. As the alien fleet began its slow descent towards Earth, the museum was locked down, unaware of the impending threat. But deep below the surface, in a secret underground military base, the humans had something the aliens didn't know about, a secret that could change everything. In a quiet, dimly lit control room, Captain Bonner sat in front of a bank of computers. He was one of the last humans who knew the significance of the old tank. The government had long since considered it obsolete, but Bonner and a few loyal military officers had always believed that it still held potential, something the aliens would never expect. They had long been watching the alien fleet, tracking its movements, and now, when it was time to act, Bonner knew what he had to do. With a few commands, Bonner accessed the tank's ancient systems. It had been decades since it had last seen combat, but the human AI controlling it had been carefully maintained. Bonner initiated the sequence to wake the tank up from its long slumber. The massive rusted war machine began to hum and whir, its systems slowly powering up as though it were a living creature coming back to life. Bonner's heart raced as he watched the lights flicker on the display. The tank's heavy cannons shifted, groaning with age, but still fully functional. A deep rumble reverberated through the control room as the massive weapon activated. Outside, the alien fleet continued its advance, unaware of the awakening power beneath the Earth's surface. The AI leader, still mocking humanity, gave the order to initiate the attack. The warships powered up their devastating weapons, ready to fire at the museum and wipe out the last remnants of Earth's military history. The alien commander, filled with arrogance, had no idea what was about to happen. The moment the aliens began their bombardment, the tank's weapons activated with shocking speed. The first missile, an old yet incredibly powerful piece of technology, shot out from the tank's barrel, cutting through the atmosphere like a streak of fire. The alien ships were still preparing for the attack when the missile hit its target. One of the alien warships exploded in a massive burst of light, sending debris scattering into space. The shockwave rocked the fleet, and the mocking laughter of the aliens instantly died away. For a moment, there was silence, The aliens, stunned by what they had just witnessed, froze in disbelief. The AI commander struggled to process the data. It had calculated that humanity's technology was far too weak to defend against such advanced weapons, yet here was proof that they were wrong. The old tank had just destroyed one of their most powerful warships with one shot. What just happened? The AI's voice trembled, not with fear, but with confusion. The fleet leader's calculations had been shattered in an instant. The alien ships, now fully aware of the power they were facing, quickly scrambled to defend themselves. The AI, still processing the data, realized its grave mistake. It had underestimated humanity, and that mistake had cost them dearly. Bonner watched the live feed from the tank's cameras, his face tense. He had seen the damage the tank had done, but he knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would regroup and come back harder, and the battle would only intensify from here. However, Bonner knew something the aliens didn't. Humanity had always been underestimated. The tank, despite its age, had just proven that. The aliens began to fire back, launching their own missiles and energy beams, but they were no match for the tank's advanced targeting systems, designed to counter such threats. As Bonner guided the tank into position, it fired another missile, this time targeting an alien dreadnought. The missile hit with pinpoint accuracy, sending another massive ship into flames. The shockwave rattled the remaining ships in the fleet. The alien fleet, now under attack from a relic, was in total chaos. The AI commander struggled to maintain control, and its confidence began to crack. It had assumed that Earth's last-ditch efforts would be nothing more than a futile show, but the humans had just turned the tables. What was once thought to be a museum piece had become the most dangerous weapon on the planet, and the alien fleet was starting. The tank's old but reliable shielding systems flared to life, glowing brightly as they absorbed the incoming laser beams with ease. The shots from the alien drones struck the shield with thunderous force, but failed to penetrate. It was clear now to the aliens that this was not just a museum piece. It was a living, breathing weapon, with capabilities far beyond what they had anticipated. The shield deflected each strike with an almost effortless grace, and the tank moved forward, unharmed by the alien onslaught. Bonner's fingers flew over the controls as he guided the tank, its massive treads pushing through the rugged terrain of Earth's surface. Despite its age, the tank's eye was still capable of calculating the most efficient strategies for evading attacks. The tank's movements were smooth, coordinated, and swift, dodging and weaving through the landscape like a predator stalking its prey. The alien drones, once confident in their superior speed and agility, now found themselves struggling to keep up with the tank's sudden bursts of speed and devastating counterattacks. The tank fired back with a terrifying force. Its guns roared as they unleashed salvo after salvo of explosive projectiles. Each shot hit its mark with pinpoint accuracy, obliterating the alien drones one by one. The first drone that tried to approach the tank was hit head-on by a high-velocity round, its sleek exterior crumpling like paper as the explosion tore it apart. Another drone, attempting to dive in from above, was shredded by a barrage of rapid fire. The shockwaves from the explosions rippled outward, sending a surge of panic through the alien fleet. They had underestimated the power of a machine that was designed for a simpler time, and now they were paying the price. With each passing second, the alien drones were picked off, one by one, their advanced weaponry unable to pierce the tank's defenses. As the tank moved effortlessly across the battlefield, it used the terrain to its advantage. It ducked into craters, hiding from the aliens' view, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. From the safety of the craters, the tank launched another missile, targeting one of the larger alien ships that was still recovering from the earlier attacks. The missile shot into the sky with a deafening roar and exploded upon impact with devastating force, sending the alien warship into a fiery spiral toward Earth's surface. The aliens, now on the defensive, launched wave after wave of drones, hoping to overwhelm the tank. But Bonner was always one step ahead. He had the tank's full capabilities at his disposal, and with each passing moment, it became clear that the battle was far from over. The tank, once mocked as a relic, had become a symbol of humanity's power and determination. It was no longer just a piece of ancient military technology. It was the last line of defense for Earth, and it was fighting back harder than anyone could have ever expected. Inside the tank's control center, Bonner's eyes narrowed in concentration as he observed the alien fleet. The enemy drones were beginning to retreat, their numbers dwindling in the face of humanity's unexpected resistance. But Bonner knew this was only the beginning. The aliens had superior technology, and they weren't going to give up easily. They had no idea how much power this seemingly outdated tank still had. He glanced at the radar screen, tracking the incoming ships. The aliens were organizing for a final push, and Bonner wasn't going to let them catch him off guard. He activated the tank's cloaking device, a hidden feature that the aliens hadn't accounted for. The tank, once a slow-moving behemoth, now became invisible, a ghost on the battlefield. The aliens were now completely unaware of its position. The tank moved silently, positioning itself for another deadly counterattack. It was a game of cat and mouse. Only this time, humanity was in control. Bonner gripped the controls tightly, his mind racing as the next phase of the battle began. The aliens had made a fatal error in underestimating the tank, and now they would pay the price. The battle raged on, and as the tank took down drone after drone, Bonner's heart beat faster. The aliens had made the ultimate mistake. They had thought that humanity's history, embodied in this ancient war machine, was nothing more than a weakness, but they had learned too late that humanity's strength lay not in the future, but in the lessons of the past. And now, that strength was fighting back with everything it had. The battle had only just begun, and the alien fleet was beginning to realize the full weight of their error. They were up against more than just a tank. They were up against the very spirit of humanity itself. The battle had escalated beyond anyone's expectations. The alien fleet, once confident in their superiority, was now in disarray, their advanced technology struggling to keep up with the relentless assault of an outdated human tank. Bonner, despite the immense odds, had managed to turn the tide of the battle. His leadership and strategic thinking, honed through years of experience, were the deciding factors in this war of attrition. But as the battle raged on, it became clear that this victory was far from guaranteed. The aliens, humiliated by the effectiveness of a seemingly obsolete tank, were now bringing out their heavy hitters. Bonner's eyes narrowed as he watched the radar screen flash with incoming reinforcements. He could hear the rumble of the tank's engine beneath him, the familiar vibrations that had kept him grounded in this war. The ground beneath the tank shook as a new wave of alien forces approached. It wasn't just drones this time. Giant alien mechs, towering over the battlefield, stomped forward, their massive armored frames reflecting the harsh light of distant stars. The air crackled with energy as a massive warship, far larger than any Bonner had encountered before, loomed in the distance, its weapons bristling with advanced alien firepower. The aliens were angry, and their humiliation had turned into a burning desire for vengeance. Bonner had already cost them precious lives and valuable technology. And now, they were bringing out the big guns. But Bonner wasn't about to back down. The tank's old systems groaned under the strain as he pushed them to their limits, knowing that this next phase of the battle would be crucial. "Ready yourself, men." Bonner's voice crackled over the comms, calm and steady. "We've got a fight on our hands." The tank's eye, still sharp despite its age, analyzed the incoming threat. Giant alien mechs, each one armed with enormous energy cannons, advanced quickly, their massive feet leaving craters in the earth with every step. They were designed for total destruction, and from Bonner's perspective, they were the true test of the tank's durability. But Bonner had a plan. He wasn't just going to wait and let the mechs overwhelm him. The tank, despite its old-fashioned design, was still fast, agile, and capable of incredible precision. It had served humanity well during many wars, and today it would prove its worth once again. Bonner knew he had to use every advantage he could find. Speed, terrain, and most importantly, the tactics that had worked in countless wars throughout history. As the mechs drew closer, Bonner ordered the tank to move into a narrow valley, using the natural terrain to its advantage. The towering mechs were far too large to maneuver in such a confined space, giving Bonner the perfect opportunity to strike first. The tank's massive cannons roared as they fired at the nearest mech, the explosion sending a shockwave through the battlefield. The mech staggered, its heavy frame shaking, but it remained standing, enraged by the attack. Another salvo from the tank hit the mech's armor. But this time, the mech retaliated. The alien pilots inside the mech began firing back with energy blasts, and the tank's shields flared to life, absorbing the blows. Bonner's heart raced, but he kept his focus. He couldn't afford to get reckless. He had to outmaneuver these giants. Inside the tank, Bonner's crew was tense, their faces set in determination. The once confident atmosphere had been replaced with a sense of urgency as the situation grew more dire. Bonner knew that each shot fired from the alien mechs could be the difference between life and death, not just for him, but for every human on Earth. As the tank rumbled forward, Bonner's crew worked in perfect unison, loading shells and preparing the next round of attacks. The tank's ammunition was running low, and every shot had to count. The mechs closed in, their massive hands reaching out to crush the tank underfoot. Bonner's eyes locked onto the largest mech, its glowing red eyes glaring down at him from above. With a steady hand, he aimed the tank's cannon and fired. The shot hit the mech's central core, causing a massive explosion that rocked the entire battlefield. But it wasn't enough. The mech staggered back, its armor cracking under the force, but it wasn't destroyed. Bonner's heart sank. This was going to be harder than he thought. The tank's ammunition was dwindling, and the aliens were showing no signs of stopping. In the chaos, Bonner's crew had suffered their first casualty. Jenkins, one of Bonner's closest soldiers, had been hit by an energy blast while manning one of the tank's turrets. Bonner heard the distant cry of the medic over the comms. "Jenkins is gone," the voice said, filled with sorrow. "We've lost him." For a moment, the world around Bonner seemed to stop. Jenkins had been more than just a soldier to him. He had been a friend, a brother in arms. They had fought together for years, sharing laughs and struggles through countless battles. Losing him in the middle of this fight struck Bonner deeply, but Bonner's sorrow quickly turned to rage. This was no longer about just defending Earth. It was about avenging his fallen comrade, avenging every life the aliens had taken and would take if they were allowed to win. "Hold the line." Bonner's voice was sharp, filled with a newfound determination. "We will not let Jenkins' sacrifice be in vain." The tank fired again, this time with a renewed ferocity. Bonner's hands flew over the controls, moving the tank with lightning speed. He guided it into a tight space between two massive boulders, using the terrain to trap the alien mechs. The massive warship loomed in the distance, but Bonner knew he had to deal with the mechs first. They were too close, and they had too much firepower. The tank's weapons roared to life once more as it unleashed a volley of missiles, catching the nearest mech off guard. The explosion was deafening, and the mech crumpled to the ground, its legs twitching before going still. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest, but he knew the battle was far from over. As the last of the mechs fell, Bonner's crew began to cheer. They had done it. The mechs had been defeated, but the warship still remained. It was heavily armed, and it would take all of Bonner's skill and determination to bring it down. Bonner sat back for a moment, his heart still racing. His hands were sweating, his muscles sore from hours of intense combat. But in that moment, as the dust settled and the wreckage of the mechs lay scattered around him, he realized one thing. Human will had overcome alien technology. Despite the odds, despite the alien superior tech, they had won. But this was just the beginning. The warship was still coming, and Bonner wasn't about to let the aliens take another step on Earth. The fight for humanity's survival had only just begun, and Bonner's resolve was stronger than ever. This time, it wasn't just about defeating the aliens. It was about proving that humanity, no matter how small or how outdated, would never back down. The battlefield was a chaos of explosions and gunfire, a symphony of destruction. Bonner's tank had withstood an onslaught that would have obliterated any other vehicle, yet it still held strong. The aliens, confident in their superior technology, had underestimated the power of human will and determination. But now, as the alien fleet regrouped and the warship prepared to launch a final strike, Bonner knew that this would be their last stand. The aliens were convinced that they had won. They believed that the human tank, an outdated relic, had no chance against their advanced weaponry. They were wrong. Bonner's mind raced, and he realized that this was the moment to do something drastic. The tank had one weapon left, a last resort device hidden deep within its core, a weapon so powerful that it could turn the tide of the entire battle. It was a desperate move, but Bonner had no other choice. If they didn't use it now, humanity's last chance would slip away. "Crew, listen up," Bonner said over the comms, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We're going to use the tank's energy pulse. I need everyone to stay sharp. This is our only shot." The crew members looked at each other, unsure of what the energy pulse would do. It was a weapon they had never used in combat, something designed to disable enemy systems in a last-ditch effort. Bonner had always hoped they would never need to activate it, but now, with their backs against the wall, it was time. Bonner activated the pulse. A deep hum filled the tank as the energy began to build up, a surge of power unlike anything the aliens had seen. The pulse was unleashed, sending a shockwave through the battlefield. The aliens' cloaking devices flickered and then failed, exposing their warships and mechs to Bonner's crew for the first time. Their communication systems were disabled, and for a brief moment, the alien forces were blind and deaf to everything happening around them. For Bonner, it was the opening he had been waiting for. The tank's massive cannons roared as they unleashed a barrage of firepower, striking the alien warships with unrelenting force. The explosions lit up the night sky as the tank's missiles found their mark. The alien fleet, still disoriented from the pulse, was vulnerable, and Bonner's crew took full advantage of the opportunity. The aliens, realizing too late that their systems were failing, scrambled to regain control. The alien commander, a cold and calculating AI, watched in disbelief as his forces faltered. His perfect strategy was unraveling before his eyes. The museum piece that he had so casually dismissed had become a nightmare for his fleet, and now it was threatening to destroy everything he had worked for. Bonner's heart raced as the tank continued to fire, its old weapons still powerful enough to break through the alien defenses. The enemy was reeling, and with every shot that landed, the humans gained more ground. It was a victory, albeit small, but it was a victory nonetheless. The alien fleet began to regroup, but it was too late. Bonner and his crew had already turned the tide. The alien commander knew that this was no ordinary tank. The weapon's power was beyond anything he had anticipated, and the human's resolve had proven to be just as strong. He had made a grave mistake by underestimating the power of humanity. His fleet was in disarray, and his carefully laid plans were falling apart. The battle was far from over, but the aliens were now on the defensive. Bonner's bold plan had worked, and for the first time since the fight began, the human tank was the one in control. The aliens had underestimated the power of an old museum piece, and they were about to pay the price. Bonner's crew, though battered and bruised, were filled with a renewed sense of hope. The energy pulse had given them the chance they needed, and now they were fighting back with everything they had. The tank, despite its age and wear, was still the most formidable weapon on the battlefield. But Bonner knew that this was just the beginning. The alien warship, still looming in the distance, was preparing for another assault. The pulse had given them a temporary advantage, but it wouldn't last forever. Bonner had no illusions about the challenge ahead. The warship was the real threat, and he would need every ounce of his strength and cunning to bring it down. "Keep pushing forward," Bonner said, his voice filled with determination. "We've got them on the ropes. We can win this." The crew, inspired by Bonner's leadership and the success of the energy pulse, nodded in agreement. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for victory, for the future of humanity. The battle was far from won, but they had taken the first step toward defeating the alien invaders. As the tank roared back into action, Bonner couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. The odds were still stacked against them, but they had shown the aliens that humans were not to be underestimated. They had fought with everything they had, and now they were on the verge of victory. The alien commander, now fully aware of the human resolve, began to question his earlier assumptions. The humans were not weak, as he had believed. They were far stronger than he had ever imagined. In his attempt to destroy humanity, he had failed to see the true power that lay within the hearts of its people. The museum piece had become the weapon that would bring about his fleet's downfall, and in that realization, the alien commander knew that he had made a fatal mistake. The battle was not over, but the turning point had arrived. Bonner and his crew had proven that even the most outdated technology, when wielded with human determination, could defeat the most advanced forces in the galaxy. The aliens had made their first mistake, and now humanity was going to make them regret it. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the humans had the upper hand. The tank fired once more, and the battlefield was filled with the sound of victory. The aliens were retreating, their once proud fleet falling apart before the might of humanity. Bonner's heart swelled with pride, but he knew that this was just one battle in a much larger war. The aliens had made their mistake, and now humanity was ready to finish it. The battle had raged on for hours, and the air was thick with the sounds of destruction. Alien warships, their hulls scorched and cracked, hovered menacingly in Earth's orbit, their final wave of attacks ready to rain down on the last line of defense, the human tank. The alien fleet, now desperate to end the resistance, launched an all-out assault. Orbital bombardments cascaded from the sky, a storm of missiles and energy beams aimed directly at the tank. The force of the strikes was overwhelming, yet the tank stood firm, its ancient armor deflecting most of the damage. It wasn't just a relic of the past, it was a symbol of humanity's relentless will to survive. Bonner's grip tightened on the controls, his face illuminated by the flickering lights of the tank's internal systems. His heart pounded as he watched the missiles streak toward them. His crew, though exhausted and battered, stood ready for one last fight. They had taken on the alien fleet, fought back against mechs, drones, and advanced technology. And now they faced the ultimate challenge, the alien flagship. The battle wasn't just about defending Earth anymore. It was about avenging the fallen, standing against the overwhelming force of an entire alien fleet, and showing the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. Bonner's mind raced as he surveyed the damage. The tank was wounded, its systems failing, but it was still alive. The aliens had thrown everything they had at them, but they had not broken the human spirit. It was time for the final push. The tank surged forward, charging toward the heart of the alien assault. The air around them was thick with energy blasts and explosions, lighting up the sky in a spectacle of fire and fury. It was a final, desperate sprint to the alien flagship, a vessel that towered above the battlefield, its massive guns trained on the tank. The ground shook with every blast, but Bonner pressed on, knowing that the survival of humanity depended on this moment. He could see the enemy's robotic drones swarming the tank, trying to break its defenses, but with every strike, they were obliterated, their twisted, metallic bodies falling to the ground in a heap of scrap. As the tank neared the flagship, Bonner's crew fought with everything they had. The tank's weapons roared, blasting apart drones and warships alike, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. But the aliens had more reinforcements, giant mechs, and new drones, suddenly surrounding the tank from all sides. The odds were overwhelming, and Bonner knew that no matter how hard they fought, they couldn't win this battle with sheer firepower alone. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. The alien flagship, with its enormous weaponry, was closing in. Bonner's thoughts turned to his crew. They had all sacrificed so much, and now it seemed as though their final stand would be in vain. His eyes flicked over to the empty seats where his fallen comrades had once sat. Jenkins, Miller, and the others. They had all given their lives for this fight. But now, as the alien forces closed in, Bonner made a decision. There was one last chance, one final move that could end this battle once and for all. He knew that it would be a sacrifice, but it was the only option left. The tank's eye, still operational despite the heavy damage, flashed an alert on the screen. Self-destruct sequence activated. Bonner's breath caught in his throat. He had initiated the sequence. It was a final, desperate measure, but if it worked, it could bring down the alien flagship. The idea of detonating the tank, his crew's last hope, was unbearable, but Bonner knew it was the only way. This was their final chance to strike a blow to the aliens and Indians. "Crew," Bonner said, his voice firm despite the weight of the decision, "we're going all in. This is it. Prepare for impact." His crew members didn't hesitate. They had fought together for so long, they understood. There was no turning back now. The tank moved toward the flagship with a fierce determination. The alien mechs tried to block their path, but the tank's weapons tore through them, reducing them to rubble. Each step felt like 1,000, and the tank's engines roared in defiance. Bonner's hands shook slightly on the controls, but his resolve was unwavering. This was their last chance. The flagship loomed large, and Bonner drove the tank directly toward it. The alien forces, realizing what was happening, tried to stop them, launching wave after wave of missiles and energy blasts. But it was too late. The tank had reached the heart of the alien fleet, and the self-destruct sequence was counting down. Bonner's heart raced as the countdown echoed in his ears. 5 seconds. 4. 3. The alien flagship fired its massive cannons, sending energy blasts ripping through the air. But Bonner held his course. He wasn't going to stop. This was the moment, and he wasn't about to let the aliens win. 1 second. The final second. The tank exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave was felt across the battlefield as the energy pulse from the self-destruct mechanism tore through the alien flagship, sending it into a violent, fiery spiral. The alien warship shuddered as its core collapsed, and with a deafening roar, it detonated, sending debris and wreckage spiraling into space. The alien fleet, already reeling from their previous losses, was now shattered beyond repair. The flagship, their symbol of dominance, was no more. Bonner's crew, though no longer physically present, had given everything for this moment. The battle had been won, not by advanced technology or superior firepower, but by the unbreakable will of a few humans willing to sacrifice everything for their home. The alien forces, now leaderless and broken, began to retreat. The remaining warships fled, their once proud fleet in ruins. The humans had done it. They had won. The alien invasion had been repelled, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they would never be defeated. As the dust settled, the silence of space was broken only by the faint echo of Bonner's final command. For Earth, for humanity. It was over. The tank had done its job, and the aliens would never forget the day they underestimated humanity. The final assault had been the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. The battle was won, but the war for the future of humanity was just beginning. The silence in space was almost deafening after the explosive destruction of the alien flagship. The wreckage of their once mighty fleet scattered across the black void like shattered dreams. For Earth, the battle was over. The alien invaders, once confident in their superiority, had been decisively defeated by an old tank, a forgotten piece of history that had become the last hope of humanity. The destruction of the alien flagship marked the end of their invasion, and with it, the beginning of a new era. The tank's self-destruct had crippled the alien fleet beyond repair. What had once been an unstoppable force was now reduced to a scattered mess of debris and broken warships. The alien mechs, drones, and advanced weaponry were no match for the sheer willpower and ingenuity of a single human tank and its brave crew. The alien forces, battered and leaderless, had no choice but to retreat, their pride shattered. They had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, only to be met with the fierce resistance of a species they had underestimated for far too long. As the alien ships began to retreat into the depths of space, the human forces on Earth seized the opportunity to strike. The Earth's military, having watched the battle unfold from their strategic command centers, now launched a full offensive. The alien retreat was a chaotic one, and Earth's forces were quick to pick off the remaining warships. The alien invasion had been defeated, but Earth's forces were ready to ensure they would never return. The victory was swift and complete. While the alien fleet withdrew, Earth stood victorious. The battle that had seemed impossible to win just hours earlier was now a distant memory. The victory was not only a military triumph, but a profound moment for humanity. It was a victory that would be remembered for generations to come. The tank, once mocked as an outdated relic, had become the symbol of humanity's resilience. The aliens had come to destroy Earth, but instead, they had been driven out by a piece of technology older than their own civilization, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. In the aftermath of the battle, Bonner and his team were hailed as heroes. Their names would forever be etched in the history of Earth, remembered as the brave soldiers who had stood against an overwhelming alien threat and emerged victorious. Bonner's sacrifice, in particular, would be remembered as the ultimate act of heroism. His willingness to give his life to ensure the survival of humanity was a symbol of the selflessness that ran deep in the heart of human nature. Bonner, Jenkins, Miller, and the rest of the crew had given everything for their planet, and their courage would never be forgotten. The museum peace tank, which had once been mocked as an outdated piece of technology, was now displayed in Earth's greatest memorial to the victory. It was no longer a symbol of obsolescence, but of the indomitable human will to survive. The tank was a reminder that sometimes the most unlikely heroes can change the course of history. It was placed in a grand hall, surrounded by tributes to the brave men and women who had made the ultimate sacrifice. The tank, battered and scarred from the battle, stood proudly as the centerpiece of the memorial, a reminder that even the most outdated technology could become the ultimate weapon when wielded by the right hands. As Earth began to rebuild, the war seemed like a distant nightmare. Yet the memory of the battle lingered in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. The aliens, once convinced of their own superiority, now knew the truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Earth was not a weak, defenseless planet waiting to be conquered. Earth was a home to a species that could fight back, that could rise from the ashes of defeat and stand proud. The galaxy would never forget the day when the humans had shown what they were truly capable of. In the final moments of the war, the alien commander, the leader who had orchestrated the invasion, sent one last message to Earth. His tone, once filled with arrogance and disdain, was now tinged with regret. He admitted the mistake of underestimating humanity. The tank, though old and seemingly outdated, had proven to be the most dangerous weapon they had faced. It was a lesson that would haunt the alien fleet for the rest of their lives. The commander acknowledged that Earth had done what no one had expected. They had fought back and won. The message was a humbling one. The alien commander, once so sure of his fleet's superiority, now found himself humbled by the humans he had thought of as weak. He had underestimated their ability to fight, to resist, and to endure. But in the end, it was humanity's strength and determination that had led them to victory. The tank, though a relic of the past, had become the symbol of that strength. The alien commander's words were a recognition of humanity's resilience, a testament to the fact that Earth was no longer a target for conquest. It was a planet of warriors. Back on Earth, the victory was celebrated in a way that would be remembered for centuries. The government held a massive memorial for Bonner and his team. It was a somber occasion, but also one filled with pride. The people of Earth gathered to honor the fallen heroes who had given their lives to protect their planet. Bonner's face was displayed on banners, his name etched in the annals of history. He had become a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice, and his bravery would inspire generations to come. As the memorial service came to a close, Earth's leaders made an important announcement. The tank, once seen as a relic, would be preserved as a national treasure. It would stand as a constant reminder of humanity's strength and determination. It would be placed in the heart of the capital, where future generations could come to see it and learn from its legacy. The tank had become more than just a piece of military technology. It had become a symbol of hope, of survival, and of the power of the human spirit. In the years that followed, Earth's reputation in the galaxy changed. No longer seen as a weak and defenseless planet, humanity was now respected by the other races. The victory over the alien fleet had proven that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. Other alien species, once dismissive of humanity, now regarded Earth with caution and respect. The lesson had been learned: never underestimate humanity. And so, as Earth moved forward, the legacy of the tank, Bonner, and his team lived on. The world had been forever changed by their bravery and sacrifice. The alien invaders had learned their lesson, and humanity had proven that it would never be crushed, never be broken, and never be forgotten. The battle for Earth had been won, and the future was bright. Humanity had earned its place among the stars.